RTD News update. Checking in for a midday live stream. Looking forward to finding out what's on your radar, and also letting you know some things that came across my radar today. Hope everyone's doing well, and I have a couple topics worth touching on here, and one that I definitely want to get your thoughts on because despite my skepticism and the push to go digital, I'm just curious as to how and why would the current crypto regulatory bill that's been put forth put Bitcoin into the hands, or the regulatory framework into the hands of the CFTC, which happens to be it's in a nutshell, a regulatory crime syndicate because of all the activity they've done and damage they've done to the precious metal space. And so, is it a good thing to put the fate of Bitcoin into the hands of the market manipulators? I don't think so. But of course, it's all about a much bigger plan. So, going to share my thoughts on that, as well as some information about Yellen's committee hearing today, where she basically said nothing new, but basically admitted to the fact that they don't really know what the hell they're doing, and they're just trying not to get exposed. So anyway, gonna have some fun with that. Hope everyone's doing well. As always, for those that might be new to the community, welcome. My name is Mike, the host. If you are new, definitely make sure you hit that thumbs up button and stick around. And more importantly, come back this evening so you can let your voice be heard on the live stream segment. And if you happen to be stumbling across this channel for the very first time, welcome. I want to encourage you to hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified when we do go live, as well as that bell notification. So hopefully you will be notified when we go live. And let me make sure everything is streaming on my side. And then I'll jump into some headlines, and then we'll go from there. All right. So let me just move some stuff around real quick. I'll jump right into the news. And of course, there's more stories that I'm not able to cover. That's why I encourage you to join these social media platforms, which is the Telegram and the Discord. And if you're on Twitter or Facebook, definitely look for Rethinking a Dollar. Connect with me there. I share articles throughout the day when they come across my radar. All right, so let's jump into some headlines. So here is something I couldn't pass up. And so it's a quote, or she's quoted rather. And so it says, Yellen, inflation to remain high, hopes it's coming down. And so the way they paraphrase that, like, it's going to remain high, and they made it seem as if like she's hoping and wishing and praying that the response that the Federal Reserve takes would actually be something worthwhile here. But we all know that there's no way in God green's earth that the Federal Reserve would look to raise rates well above their own admitted CPI rates. Nevertheless, anything close to what the real inflation rates probably are, which are definitely double digits, high double digits, or teens rather. So anyway, but I thought this was interesting because she was asked some very low ball questions. And of course, nothing really comes from these things other than just more of an admission as to what they're not able to do. But it says, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen acknowledged Tuesday that she and Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, quote, could have used a better word than transitory. So a year later, they're just saying that they could have used a different word. Like, what word could you have used other than, like, what? You don't know what the hell you're doing type of thing, or what? It says, when describing the expected run of inflation in the U.S. economy, you bring into existence damn near a third or more of the total monetary base within a 2-year time frame, and you don't think it's going to have some severe consequences on the very small, finite amount of goods and services? So once again, another line. Quote, I do expect inflation to remain high, although I very much hope that it will be coming down now. So like just that statement there doesn't make sense for someone who is supposed to be good at, what they do. They're bankers. They're supposed to know this, but they're lying to us. That's ultimately. I do expect inflation to remain high, although I very much hope that it will be coming down now. Right. Okay. And so that's notably, as it says, an 8.3 leap in the consumer prices over the past year. So yeah, Janet Yellen's, it is what it is. Not subject here. Actually, I'm going to get to that in a minute, but along with, let me zoom down some. Looks kind of big on my side here. It says Yellen says the IRS is under siege. It needs $80 billion to beef up tax work. So, what exactly would $80 billion be going to is the question. My suspicion is that it's about revamping the entire taxation model in preparation for once the clarity is given for the digital asset space, it'll make it that much easier for our government to collaborate with other governments around the planet to begin the surveillance models that will come as a result of people being willing to accept digital assets as the next monetary structure. That once again will be incorporate. It will incorporate the digital asset space as well as the central bank digital currency space all in one, and that's what the regulatory clarity is about. And I'm going to share my 2 cents on that in a moment because once again, I just see more loop. I just see more holes in the narrative as to how adoption will not be your best friend in the end. But just give you a little something from this article here and keep it moving. But just more insight as to the continuation of control that the governing authorities have over the people. U.S. Treasury Secretary on Tuesday urged Congress to approve an $80 billion in funding for the IRS. It says a huge backlog of tax returns and allow it to go after $600 billion in unpaid tax bills. How would they know that there's $600 billion of unpaid taxes out there? You gotta it makes me wonder. She said the IRS is under siege. It is suffering from huge underinvestment. The other said the agency was dealing with massive problems, including a huge backlog in working through tax returns and lacked the personnel needed to carry out complicated audits and high earning taxpayers. And so it says IRS had about stopped auditing tax returns of wealthy investors who are eligible for 20% tax write-offs, yada, yada, yada. The resources of the IRS have been cut to the point that they largely cut back on the complicated audits, the ones that are harder on higher income tax earners. So they are going to target the middle class, the workers, the smaller people will definitely get all the taxes in the end. But anyway, so my suspicion about this is quite obvious that a part of this revamp and need for $80 billion is to prepare for the digital world. And so it makes it a lot easier when you can use technology such as automation, certain algorithms that would allow the IRS and other government agencies to have more eyes and oversight over 300 plus million and beyond without needing actual eyes and ears, actual human bodies in buildings to do things when AI can do it for them. And so no doubt that 80 billion will go to probably, if it gets passed, if it now or later, it will get passed because we're going digital solely at some point. So they're going to have to have all that surveillance stuff ready to roll. So it's just a matter of timing if it's not already there. And so this could just be their way of just, trying to come up with some excuses for those funds. And those funds, I'm pretty sure, have already been allocated to help with this digital transition because we can't get to the final outcome of all this without that stuff. I mean, as far as the way they see things. But anyway, keep it going. Let me get to some other things here. So this is something I want to definitely touch on because I have my suspicions as to, as I said a couple of rants ago, the people who put together these bills, they're not politicians, believe me, because they're not smart enough to really know the intricate details of how this tech works. And then, of course, what will be in the best interest of the people overall. At the same time, on the other side of that, in another building across, the area in DC, there's another entity working on how to come out with the CBDC. And so you got politicians on one side talking about decentralized and all that other stuff. And you got other politicians talking about a CBDC. And you think that's all heading towards something that will make our lives more comfortable and more enjoyable, minus Janet Yellen's admission that they need $80 billion to expand the IRS for tax purposes' sake. They're all working together, people. Anyway, just a little something here that caught my attention. It says Gillibrand and Lummis introduced a major cryptocurrency bill. So it's just, and I've been going back and forth today on Twitter with a couple of people. Like whenever I see something Bitcoin related, I have no problem just commenting on some posts, just because I give them a counter narrative to what they're trying to promote as a maximalist usually. And it leads to some interesting engagements because once again, you can't you can't prove me wrong, because you can't be 100% right either, because nobody knows. But just to err on the side of caution, it's more probable that this whole digital transition is a Trojan horse than it is like something that will free humanity, because it's not even real. It's not even tangible. It's not even an item that you can, go somewhere and redeem and then put in your possession. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to literally leave it on a blockchain and then put it in your digital wallet. You know what I'm saying? Like, so like that right there is a whole nother can of worms. And I'm off topic, but I was just talking to someone about how they were saying that, your gold, they can clip your gold coins. I'm like, sure, they can clip my gold coins, but I'll still have something in my hand, whether it's, half clipped or whatever. It's still in my hands. Whereas in your point, talking to the person on Twitter, I was saying that, the only thing you have is verification on a blockchain that I can see, you can see, the regulators can see. And the worst part about it is, for me, it's about weights and measures, purity, fineness of gold and or silver, and the actual weight in my hand that I have in possession. Whereas in you, it's on your wallet, and is subject to a consensus algorithm remaining the same. And I even told them how over the last couple of years, Bitcoin has gone through some transformations. And I mentioned, like, you think it's the last upgrade you're going to see in Bitcoin's history? No, believe me, there will be some upgrades to the protocol, and it will not be in the favor of the majority. And at that point, you won't be able to go redeem your coins, because you can't get much for them other than buying something in real time. Anyway, I'm rambling too much, but it's just some interesting conversation I have back and forth, because, once again, you can't prove me wrong, and because no one knows. So we're all finding out together. Anyway, okay, here's the bill introduced today. We'll create a regulatory framework for digital assets, such as cryptocurrency. So here's the thing, like listen to this. This bill will create a regulatory framework for digital assets, such as cryptocurrency. And so just came across my mind. It's for digital assets such as cryptocurrency. So what else is all included in the digital sphere? Like, what other things will be lumped into that same category? And, why are these politicians so gun-ho on a digital asset bill that would include cryptographic token type approaches on private ledgers and things of that nature? Yeah, it just lets me know that, this covers a lot more than what they would like us to believe. And a lot more has a lot to do with what I'm going to talk about in a minute with World Economic Forum in Davos. Mark my words. Anyway, so here's the bill, the Responsible Financial Innovation Act. It's always something happy-go-lucky, laughing giggles type of title. Responsible Financial Innovation Act will encourage innovation in the financial sector, as well as flexibility, transparency, and robust consumer protections. Man, it just sounds like a bad sales pitch. And robust consumer protections. Right. So people, like, I'm gonna stop because I can go too long. But at what point, for my original crypto OGs out there, for what point did the cyberpunks and the maximalists like give in and start waiting around for clarity that gives you a sales pitch by the same people that it was meant to disrupt, and it was sold as being permissionless? But now, why do we need a bill? Why do you need a bill where a part of the slogan is it'll provide you robust consumer protections? Like, you're gambling, you're speculating when you participate in that space. What do you need protection from? It's a gamble, but it's a gamble that people should be willing to take, because the ultimate gamble is a Ponzi scheme that's being unraveled as we speak, denominated in currency. So it's like, yeah, like, but they're trying to validate this, make this an official financial product. And for every official financial product, there must be, according to our government structure, some type of regulatory framework or boundaries that's set up so that you, the retail investor, can operate within those boundaries they set and go by their rules according to their tax structures and all the other things that's needed for permission. And I thought that was supposed to be the opposite of what this whole crypto stuff was sold as. But that was just to get things started because it all changed. And as I mentioned in a tweet last night, there's a lot of interested parties now that run the show. And so, the average retail investor holdings will not carry no weight, and you won't get a seat at the table when it's time to change the consensus. So I just got to keep mentioning that. But anyway, it says the proposed legislation will also assign regulatory clarity over digital asset spot markets. So think about this. Over the spot markets to the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, the CFTC. And the CFTC has been the biggest thorn in the rear end of the precious metals community for the last almost going on 50 years. So for those that may not know, the inclusion of gold and silver into the commodity sphere occurred, if I'm not mistaken, in 1974-ish. The same exact time frame the executive order was signed, removing the illegal holdings of gold by the citizen, by us, we the people. And so, like, literally, they removed the executive order saying that it was illegal to hold gold. 3 or 4 months later, the CFTC included gold and silver, I think gold for sure, into the commodities basket. And the rebranding of the usage of gold and the control of the price of gold was all shifted into the hands of the CFTC, and based upon the products that were spun off from that. And you mean to tell me that Lummis, the best she can do is put Bitcoin and other digital assets of important use to the banks into the hands of the same people that have suppressed the price of gold and silver for 50 years? Okay. But this is what the people wanted. Give them what they want. They want adoption. You get adoption, all right. You get spot markets that will not reflect the real price at some point. Like, you may say this, the ETF spot future, when it comes, the price is going to go through the moon. It's going to go through the moon, but imagine who the biggest bags are. And at what point will going to the moon cause more people to realize that you're not invited to go to the moon? They don't want you on the moon. They want you here on Earth so they can be a debt slave, a tax slave. You're not going to be invited to the party on the moon. But then again, who am I? Nobody listens. Nobody cares. Anyway, this is just entertaining as hell. It says they will be handed over to the spot markets of the CFTC, which regulates commodity markets, creating a new advisory committee. They're going to create a new advisory committee that will focus on developing guideline principles, empowering regulatory agencies, and advising lawmakers on fast developing technology. So not only are they going to put them in the CFTC hands, they're going to create a whole new department focused on developing guidelines, empowering the regulatory authorities, and advising lawmakers. So those are 3 different tiers of influential people, in my opinion, that are all controlled by the banks, Wall Street interests, special interests, and other people that I can't name. And you mean to tell me you think this space is going to grow in a way that will provide freedom for the average person that thinks that this is the pathway to some type of sovereignty, and it's not even your code? You can't hold the code. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm gonna stop right there. I'm done with that. I'm moving on because I'll get a little caught up in this. But anyway, so I thought I would just share some more stuff. So I had to go back in history. Just Ron Manley, everybody know from Bullion Star, and he just just some headlines. Orwellian CFTC, which ignored years of silver price manipulation, now going after Reddit apes. So this is when the whole silver squeeze stuff jumped off. But everybody in the precious metal space been talking about how fraudulent, how just unlawful the CFTC and all the people who are there, former bankers, special interest people, whatever you name it, how they've been basically just killing the price of silver. And you think that putting Bitcoin and other assets into that same category with 3 different tiers of people over them or along with them is going to equal a good price. Now, here's a tweet I want to share because I had to share this because, once again, this is I don't know this guy. I just came across this, but it just goes to show how most people don't really realize what's at stake here. Because if you knew how bad things were with this particular chart here, you would realize that you don't want to be lumped in with them. But anyway, just real quick, this is from, Bitcoin Gus. I don't know him, but, I'm sure, he means well, I'm sure. It says, after the regulatory dust settles, this table is going to get blown out of the water by Bitcoin. And so here's one thing that most people don't consider. This guy shows the periodic table of commodity returns. So this is the basket of goods that the CFTC and other agencies have rolled into a financial product that's openly traded amongst the banksters and all the parties that got counterparties and derivatives and all types of things to it. And he's saying that once Bitcoin is included into this pool, that it's going to blow all this other stuff out the water. But then again, what's some key distinctions from Bitcoin and other digital assets being put into this category is, if you look at this chart, everything on this chart is real. Like, it's a real, most of them are tangible. Other, so we got some gases on here. Natural gas is not something you can tangible. You can smell it, but it's not tangible. But it's not subject to other forces beyond just nature. All these are all nature, natural, God-given periodic table elements. But then again, they're talking about putting computer code into this, as if like, it's gonna make sense. Like, we need everything on this chart to sustain our livelihood for humanity's sake. Incorporating computer code or a piece of a computer code onto here, it's just ripe for manipulation. It's a no-brainer that is going to end up falling into the same traps as other items on this chart here, because it's all going to be spun off in all types of derivatives and all types of products. And so also what I'm getting at, Bitcoin has, once this clarity is given, the spot ETF will be approved. It will then it will turn into a traditional, conventional financial product that Wall Street will run and everything associated with it. And that's if and until they're ready. That's until their narrative against proof of work changes in the near future because of the energy situation. Because mind you, the energy crisis we're experiencing now is not like it's going to go away. It's being done intentional. They're deliberately withholding. And on top of that, the available abundance of easy access to oil energy, it's all been depleted. We talk about SRS Rocco does a great job talking about the energy crisis. It's here. And so there's going to be the push for new ways to provide energy for the world. And I don't think it's going to be a priority on, everybody's list around the world to make sure they still have enough energy to power the mining rigs for proof of work projects. And so they're going to have to make a choice. Do we keep these mining rigs going, or do we shut them off, or we demand there's a change of the consensus to proof of stake, i.e. what Ethereum is doing ahead of time? Ethereum's changing because they know what's coming. And so it's just, this is just some good stuff here. I think it's worth talking about. Pay Me Money Back said, what if the plan is to replace the whole table? Replace the whole table as far as the periodic table? They said, this is, once again, the enemy's plan. They said you'll own nothing and be happy. Therefore, everything of value on that table is what humanity needs. And we know that there's the desire for them to play God, to where they give us their synthetic versions of everything on our periodic table, which is definitely something doable. They have the infrastructure. They're investing to provide synthetic food, synthetic everything, because in the long distance future, with this transhumanistic approach to things, if your body is being altered down to the genetic level, then at that point, what will the body really need when it's not really wholly human? You may need less sleep, less actual chemical nutrients if your body is merged with something else way down the line. So that could be a part of the question. Yeah. Um, and so I see something about quantum computing. Yeah. So I don't, quantum computing. That's definitely believe me, quantum computing is. I believe they're sitting on some things that can really disrupt the Shaw 256. I really believe that's possible. But yet, why would they mess up their cash cow right now? Why not wait until all 30-40 trillion dollars worth of retirement funds and stock and real estate, all that stuff Michael said talk about is going to be rolled into Bitcoin. When it's all rolled in, then you can change the rules of the game again. So anyway, I'm rambling too much. Keep it moving. So and so pay me money backs. Once again, shouts out to you, brother. I want to touch on this one here because I read through this one and it got me thinking, like, man, like, how timely is everything starting to come together for the banksters, man. They on a roll right now. They got some politician puppets promoting the adoption and bills, and they get unlimited. They get unlimited. This is the best part. This is genius. Oh, this is genius. Think about this, man. This is genius. Like, man, it amazes me. Like, you I mean, so this goes into another little rant I had with somebody, and this gives me so much content just because it's so much I can just rant from. Like, it is never ending. But let me share something real quick. So I like to pass this around the internet a little bit. Let me close this real quick. I like to pass this around the internet when I'm referring to pass this around the internet when I'm referring to things, and people come back with me. One guy today came back, said he's like, shows how ignorant you are. You put Bitcoin under cryptographic tokens was right next to CBDCs. I'm thinking, like, man, you don't get it. I'm like, we wouldn't even be having this discussion right now. This would not be a topic on every person's mind if we weren't told 34 years ago that right now we'll be talking about currency. And all of a sudden you think that, Saint Satoshi came from heaven to save humanity's money by giving us some computer code. You don't find that to be somewhat strange? And I ain't heard back from him. But anyway, to my point, what was my point? So just how things are starting to play together so well. Like, if I was on the bad guys team, and to see the progress, see the progress we've made in getting the world to accept something that we were, wanting them to accept, and to get them to buy in and be supporters of my agenda, and like to, man, like I must admit, I would be proud if I was able to convince people if I was so good of a salesman that I could convince people that there's freedom at the end of this. All you got to do is just hang on, promote, and just grow the communities. Every blockchain has a large community. Just pump. If you pump your bags strong enough, with our help, meaning I'm on the bad guy. With our help, we're going to make sure your bag grows. And they just leave it at that. And so you think, like, oh man, I'm gonna get rich, man. I'm gonna get me a Lambo, I'm going to the moon. But then again, the people who met in Davos, they already got a plan as to how this ends. That's the problem. Most people don't know. They're not willing to consider and really think about the probabilities of how this might end, because everything comes to an end. Just like the dollar comes to an end. Then one day gold and silver will be of no use to nobody. So it all comes to an end. But people are so focus on the way things are now, as if it's always going to remain the same. And I understand that. Okay, that's called being hopeful. Okay, sure. But one thing that really trips me out is that everything's lined up perfectly. The solution is here. For the banksters, it's computer code. For the cyberpunks and the maximalists, it's computer code. Computer code has already won. It's just a matter, how does it end? We're going to find out. But this is what nobody really wants to talk about. So Pay Me Money Bags, put something on me, tweeted me last night about, something relevant to this, but I read through the article, clicked some things, and I'm like, how come this subject right here is not talked about? Like, to me, this will be the biggest crypto blockchain news, ever to this date. Like Satoshi, would be rolling over in his grave if he wasn't a part of all this. You know what I'm saying? But just think about this, man. Like, these are the forces at work against humanity coming together and forming what's considered the largest club of blockchain technology and digital asset sectors. And nobody, you ain't gonna see this tweeted nowhere. Cointelegraph, who's already bought and paid for, CoinDesk, none of the maxis gonna talk about this because it's irrelevant. Because I got Bitcoin, I'm good. I'm fine. I'm gonna live happily ever after. Come on now. Anyway, I'm getting carried away. But just real quick, take your time, do what you got to do with this. Major merger creates world's largest members association for blockchain technology and digital asset sector. And just, you won't find out any details. None of the Bitcoin maximalists, except Michael Saylor and Lummis, might have been invited to, to this type of, party. But it says Global Blockchain Business Council. Never heard of them until last night. This is how much of the unknowns has already developed, to where my point in a whole little rant about, free publicity is that all you have to do is set the agenda, get it in motion, entice people to join your movement. And most people, out of sheer desperation and excitement, it's easier to just jump along things, and because if it benefits you slightly, you'll just get involved, and eventually you'll become an evangelist for something that you don't know how it even will end, but the orchestrators that plan for all this do. And so we have, it says 500 member institution that will lead the way for blockchain and digital asset leaders. So these 500 institutions, these are billionaires, these are banks, these are fintech, these are VCs, some of the most powerful forces on this planet just formed a union, and their statement is they're going to lead the way for blockchain and digital assets. So let me ask you a question. How will these people lead blockchain and digital assets into the future? You got governments leading in their own CBDC usage as they plan, and you got your retail investor in the middle. They got a couple cryptos based upon their current projects. Who's going to win out? You know what I'm saying? Because these people that say they leading the way, they have immediate access to all of the protocol developers, creators, founders, ecosystems. Their bags talk. And it's like, how can you not talk about this? Look at this. The combined association will have nearly 500 institutional members, 178 ambassadors operating across 95 jurisdictions and disciplines. The Global Digital Finance, which is part of the merger, will be renamed the GBBC Digital, whatever, based in the UK, with teams permanently across the EMEA and the APAC, names I don't even know about, and they're excited about Web3. They think they're developing Web3. They think they're developing the metaverse. So you ask yourself a question: who's in here? What's their plans? And how does this current regulatory clarity that's being promoted help them? Because, mind you, it's my opinion that the bill that Lummis submitted, it originated here, not from Wyoming in some small office. You know what I'm saying? Just, man, this is becoming too obvious for some, but maybe not all. Anyway, I don't want to rant no more. You guys get my drift. You know where I stand. This is just, to them, it's entertainment. To us, it's real life. Well, a lot of people they're not willing to have that type of talk. So watch this. Mark my words. Not a single crypto person in the crypto sphere, no channel, not a zero, will even mention this type of possible opposition to the free movement, free capitalism / cyberpunk, type of movement. Like, these people stand to disrupt the free flowing economy that's already developed in regards to the certain projects, Bitcoin, Ethereum. Basically, the top 20 is already bought and paid for. The top 20 is already, they got some ties in right here. So, but nobody's going to talk about this. And some people still think that the chain, that like some people still think code is law. Like you can't change the consensus algorithm. It's, it's built into the code. But these people say they're leading the way. They got plans, and I'm sure that includes your average Joe. But anyway, I think this is something that people should talk about if it's important to you. If your financial future, if you think your financial future is based upon computer code, you might want to start, digging in deeper to who these people are, because you better believe, they don't got to know you, but you gonna definitely know them. Oh man. Anyway, so let me get ready to dial back. As always, I had more. Let me just, real quickly, just for those that care, and so my point was that whole 500 membership, this whole 500 membership right here, this came out of Davos 2 weeks ago. This is a part of their meetings that they had that we weren't told about. And we know Claus was over there. So Claus got big plans as well. He already told us he's going to own nothing. What better way to own nothing other than computer code? But here's just some information. It's just older, but it's all tied in. Effective crypto regulation takes time and caution. They want to get this right. They can't afford for people to wake up and realize that, they're, helping their agenda, because, if people go back to gold and silver and start promoting that again and get rid of code and say, really find out what's in the code, then it'll mess up their chances of bringing in the fourth industrial revolution, and they can't have that. So anyway, but this is all entertainment, but this is, so once again, to my knowledge, this is just a part of their, let me see, this is just the map. And they have all these corporations and governments that are participating in executing this agenda. And this is just the digital economy and society. And these are all the aspects of our lives that they are tinkering with. And look at the very bottom right here, blockchain. Blockchain is how they will help execute all this. And then that 500 member group of Davos private public merger, they're excited about blockchain too. So here's the thing. Long story short, everybody can't be excited about blockchain, because all blockchains aren't created equal, but they will be treated in accordance to who write the code. And once again, if you can't hold it in your hand and look at it and they don't shine and don't clunk, don't make that unique sound, will you actually have anything in the end? But anyway, enough of me ranting. If you found value here, hit the thumbs up button. Definitely. If you found, here's the thing. If you're a crypto person, send me some information to prove me wrong. I'll shut up. Or take this, tag your favorite crypto person, ask them their thoughts on this, and just see, if you get a response. Because once again, they can't prove nothing, neither can I. But I'd assume I'm heading in the right direction in reference to what could be, rather than the people on the other end saying that, code is law, nobody can change it. Satoshi is, all that good stuff. Anyway. All right, people, I'm not going to bore you no more. Be blessed, be safe. See you guys later.
The next recession.
Recession will be a recession.
We're going to hit a recession.
The date of the next recession.
A U.S.-only recession typically lasts 8 to 10 months.
A crash is coming. Now, whether it's 6 months from now, 12 months, 36 months, no one knows.
If you have the right plan to set up, you can make a lot of money from this.